Morning, everybody. So, as you all can see, Karan is not here. I am actually the stand-in speaker for today. So, if you find any errors in anything I say, okay. I'm just a stand-in guy. So, but yeah, today we're starting a new series. As you can see the flyer on the screen, Your Work Matters. And the title for today's talk is What's the Point of Work? So, what's the point of work? Why are we working? We're just working to earn money, fill our tummies, and survive, live, buy a car, buy a 3 BHK, make 2, 3 kids, and then eventually die. But yeah, I just gave you the life cycle of a human being. But what's the point of work in all of this? Okay, my parents have earned a lot. They've earned for 3 generations together. I don't have to work. I can just sit at home and enjoy whatever my grandparents have earned. Or there's nothing my grandparents have earned. So I am the first person, I'm the first graduate of the family. So I have to gather all my resources and give all these houses to the next 3 generations. But what's the point? What's the point? So let's look at the first instance of work in the Bible. So this is from the book of Genesis. Created is an action word, right? I created this. So I have to do some work to create something, right? So God worked. So let's see that. Let's take a look at today's reading from the book of Genesis, chapter 2, verses 4 to 11. So I will. Okay, Sebastian, can you just help me with reading this? MSG, it's here. You can just come and read from here. So.
Genesis chapter 2, verse 4 to 17. This is the story of how it all started, of heaven and earth when they were created. At the time, God made earth and heaven before any grasses or shrubs had sprouted from the ground. God had not yet sent rain on earth, nor was there anyone around to work the ground. The whole earth was watered by underground springs. God formed man out of dirt from the ground and blew into his nostrils the breath of life. The man came alive, a living soul. Then God planted a garden in Eden in the east. He put the man he had just made in it. God made all kinds of trees grow from the ground, trees beautiful to look at and good to eat. The tree of life was in the middle of the garden, also the tree of knowledge of good and evil. A river flows out of Eden to water the garden, and from there divides into 4 rivers. The first, named Pishon, it flows through Havilah, where there is gold. The gold of this land is good. The land is also known for a sweet scented resin and the onyx stone. The second river is named Gihon. It flows through the land of Cush. The third river is named Hiddekel and flows east of Assyria. The fourth river is Euphrates. God took the man and set him down in the Garden of Eden to work the ground and kept it in order. God commanded the man, "You can eat from any tree in the garden except from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Don't eat it from it. The moment you eat from that tree, you are dead."
Thank you, Sebastian. So here we see God creating man and putting him and instructing him to work and giving him an instruction about not to eat from a specific tree. So, what are the distinguishing and definitive observations we read about God? Not about man over here, about God. What are the definitive observations that we read? We just read some definitive observations. God made earth and heaven. God formed man out of the dirt. God planted a garden. God put man over here. God commanded the man not to do some things. So these are some definitive observations. God made, formed, planted, all these action words we're seeing. But at a glance, in these opening passages of the Bible itself, it's a perfect world. So in a perfect world, in a world without blemish, in a world without any defect, in a world without any imperfection, we see God at work. We still haven't come to the part where man sins. So that is where the fall happens. But we haven't come there yet. We are just in a perfect world. But there we see God at work. So, incorporated and built in these clear cut observations of God, we also notice something really crucial for us. Let's read verse 15 together. God took the man and set him down in the Garden of Eden to work the ground and keep it in order. So we see over here God giving custody, God delegating authority, God trusting mankind to also work just what God has just created. So we saw God planted the Garden of Eden. God planted the Garden of Eden, and God is instructing man to work the ground and keep it in order. So this is like, okay, I created a code at work, it's working fine, and then there's another support team which maintains my code. Okay, any changes that comes through, they maintain it. Any updates that come through, they maintain it. But the initial creation of the code, I do it. So is my work not at all mattering over here? No. So it does matter. That is what the crux of God at work is over here. So many of us understand project management, we understand workflow, we understand tasks, we understand Jira, we understand items in our Jira sprints, and all of that. But over here, we see God initializing, directing the steps, managing and controlling the details, and finally handing it over. God is just creating one Jira and giving us, okay, this is the first sprint, do it. The first sprint is to not eat from this tree, and we failed there only. So the dignity of work. So to gain a proper perspective on work, we need to go back to the book of Genesis. So we're already in the book of Genesis, but even more earlier. Right now we read from the first chapter, second chapter. Right now, let's go to the first chapter, verses 26 to 27. Let us make human beings in our image, make them reflecting our nature. So they can be responsible for the fish in the sea, the birds in the air, the cattle, and yes, earth itself, and every animal that moves on the face of earth. God created human beings. He created them godlike, reflecting God's nature. So from these two passages that we just read, I want to expound on some points, and then after that, I want to give a glimpse of what we can expect over the next couple of months, next couple of weeks, over the next 8 to 9 weeks of our Sunday services. So starting next Sunday, we're going to be making some adjustments and modifications to our flow of service, but we will come back to this regular flow after this particular series is over. So I don't know about you, but I'm usually very excited about new series or any new change that happens here in church. So any change in the flow of service. So right now we just come here, we sing, there's worship the first half an hour, and then there's a sermon, and then there's announcements, and then we gather and we meet, we have tea, coffee. But I'm not saying that's wrong. But nowhere in the Bible there is a blueprint for church service. Okay, first you have to do this, next you have to do it. Nowhere in the Bible it's like that. So next Sunday we'll be changing some things. So I'll come back to the flow of service a little later. So right now, coming back to the dignity of work. So firstly, we discover that God of the Bible is a worker. Yeah, we saw that very clearly. He made the universe. Unlike a traditional mindset, um, where people in authority don't get down doing the detailed work, or those higher up in our organizations or wherever we work demand work, but they themselves do less. Unlike that particular thinking, unlike that we have in the common world, we read that God Himself works, and therefore God dignifies work. How many of you feel like your boss is working less than you? I feel like that. Come on, I'm doing all the code, and he's getting all the credit. He's getting all the promotion. He's getting all the good name in front of the client. But whatever is happening when he clicks that report button, every beautiful graph and all those diagrams and all that data analysis, all the business insights, where to invest your money, all of that I'm giving. And he's making $200 million a year, and I'm making 50,000 a year. What is this? What is it? I can't be the only one who feels like that. Come on, what is it? Nobody feels like that. What? All dignified people already. You don't need this sermon then. So, hardworking. On Anita, you can't say that. You always tell me only to clean. So, but yeah, we discover that the God of the Bible is a worker. Unlike my boss at work. Secondly, what do we see? We discover that God sets us to be a worker as well. Okay, so He worked. Okay, good for God. But we discover that He sets us also to be a worker. Good for us, I guess. Let's see deeper. So God made man in God's own image, not on the lion's image, not on the monkey's image. No, God made man in God's own image. We find that we are workers as well. Furthermore, God entrusts to humanity the task of the work in this world. How am I concluding it like that? God could have quite easily delivered an entire created economy, entire created order with everything complete, right? But what did God give? He gave just the Garden of Eden. God didn't give a Mercedes Benz. He didn't give me a Maybach. He didn't build this building. He didn't construct this podium. Gold was not invented. Laptops were not invented. Mics were not invented. So how is all this happening? How is all this order happening? It's because of our work. So God delegated that authority to us to create and maintain order over the Garden of Eden. So from there, we moved on to the whatever historians call it, the Stone Age. Then came the Metal Age. We dug deeper. We found new equipment. So God was always setting us up to be a worker. Scientific discoveries, all technological advancements. So all of this happened, right? It was part of God's plan. He entrusted the earth to us and all its resources. So since God is a worker who entrusts his work to men and women, God Himself dignifies the substance of everyday work. As Jesus said in John 5:17, "My Father work to this very day, and I too am working." Jesus says this. So we cannot forget that Jesus worked with His own bare hands as a carpenter for 30 years of His life. And what a radical challenge it was in the first century in the Greek Roman culture that God came to earth as a laborer, not as a white collar job, but as a blue collared worker, as a carpenter. Paul too was working. He was also happy to work as a tanner and a tent maker in order to support himself and spread the gospel. So the dignity of work makes so much of sense in our lives. We have to feel, I don't know if we have to feel thankful that we have work, or yeah, but God, Jesus, He worked as a carpenter, as a laborer. Oh man, at least I'm not working as a laborer, but at least we have work. So humans, we are meant to work. Thirdly, we are introduced to a sense of delight. So why are we working? We'll see here. We are introduced to a sense of delight. In the opening chapters of the Bible, whenever a task was undertaken and done, the Bible mentions this phrase in the first chapter of the Bible. God saw that it was good. God created the heaven and the earth. God saw that it was good. God created man. God saw that it was. Have you ever thought of this? From where do we get the love to create? And from where do we get the delight in the completion of something we worked on? So when we're cooking, once we get a delight of when we're eating the works, eating our hard work, right? Or when we are creating a painting. Once it's done, oh wow, looks so beautiful. The same thing was happening with God as well. He created the heaven and the earth. He saw that it was good. Oh, yeah, that looks nice. Okay, let me do this. Oh, that looks nice. Let me create some fish. There is a sense of delight in creation. There is a sense of delight in work. There is a sense for kids. When we were kids, when we completed one huge 1,000-piece puzzle, wow, I was on top of the world. If Instagram was there, I would have posted 1,000 stories on Instagram that I did this. Wow, come on, see everybody. Is over here. There's a little some of his notes only I'm saying. So he's given examples from Esther and Arya. So Arya does all these DIY projects at home. Esther gives it to Arya. So Arya did a project with cardboard with mermaids in them. So Karan is only saying this. Quite frankly, he has seen much better artwork. But where does this joy and delight of working and completing a task come from? It's not the best task in the world. It's not Picasso level artwork. But there is still a sense of joy in completion of the work. Think about some common hobbies, something that we do, some DIY activities that we do, some experiments that we engage in a lot at home. It might be painting, it might be learning a new song on the guitar, or it might be learning a new instrument, or trying out a new dish, or developing new code. So that is also creative work. It's also equivalent to cooking. But yeah, there is a sense of delight, right? When my code works, I hit control enter. My code is running. Oh, there is this sense of tension. Oh, will it run? Will it give all green check marks? Done, over. Sense of delight. And when I'm cooking, oh wow, I didn't burn the food. It's edible. Sense of delight is there. Yes, wow, I did it. So I'm sure you all agree that even if the end result is slightly crooked and twisted, we like that. We like what we have attempted, right? Ruth was saying the other day that she burned some chicken, but still she took some of the chicken and they ate also. So there's a sense of delight in at least doing it, right? Okay, some new recipe I've tried, done this. So, and the truth is, this was supposed to be true of everyday work, our jobs, house chores, filling out forms, writing code, testing code, all of this. Yet, we see that for most of us, something somewhere has gone wrong with the aspect of delight and satisfaction, with a sense of wonder of our routine work. So, routine work, it might be in the house, it might be at work. Okay, I'm going and looking at the same spreadsheet, updating the same spreadsheet. What is this? So boring. I'm giving the same output, I'm giving the same results, I'm giving the same dashboard, or I'm sweeping the same floors every day, I'm mopping the same house every day. So boring. Cooking for the same person every day. What is this? So boring. Routine work. We have lost this sense of delight and satisfaction and a sense of wonder for routine work. This sense of enjoyment of creating things explains why unemployment can be so damaging to our souls. This is why I was giving you the example in the beginning when I was saying, my grandfather has earned so much that 3 generations don't have to work. But still, why do I have to work? This is the thing. Unemployment can be so damaging to our souls. The problem with unemployment is that not only the fact that we don't get a monthly means of resource to sustain daily needs, but at a more deeper level, the reason unemployment can be dangerous and delicate for the human heart is because it deprives a human being of delighting and enjoying work. All of this that we just discussed forms an introduction of what we can expect over the next 8 to 9 weeks. So I'd like to share what we are going to address and how we are going to address the next 8 weeks. So we're going to be doing it in 4 parts in 8 modules. The calling matters with regards to your work, with regards to your creativity, with regards to your workplace. Second one, your heart matters, discipline matters. All this needs to deal with the heart, with your heart. The third one, ethics, workplace, process. Second deals with your workplace, how you go about in and around your workplace. And finally, city matters. I'm very excited for that as well. How your work matters in the city with the culture. So the way we are going to frame Sunday mornings, I told you that we are going to be bringing some change in the order of service. So the change that we're going to be framing for Sunday mornings is something like this. So the anchor begins by welcoming everybody and opening with a Bible reading. And we'll have one song in the beginning. So one song, and after sermon for 15 to 20 minutes. And then we will move on to group discussions. So there'll be questions to ponder upon. We will be forming groups of 3 to 4 or 5 people in one single group. We'll be having a group mediator who will then, after the end of the group discussion, will collate everything that happened in the group, and we'll have a summarized version of whatever was discussed in the group by knitting it all together followed by communion and alternative Sundays, followed by announcements, honoring God with our money, and close of service. And then time for conversation. Next 8 to 9 weeks. So I just told you about this group discussions. So what will be happening in those group discussions? So I also want to introduce Alan to us. So Alan, if you can just say hello, everybody. So that is the Alan. So Alan, Abhisha, and the boys have been an organization that focuses on planting gospel-centered churches in global cities of the world. So Newbridge has benefited much from this forum. But one of the other things that this organization does is that it helps working professionals integrate their faith and beliefs with their work and career, which is what we will be looking at the next 8 to 9 weeks. So this department leading and coordinating the faith and work segment in India. So most of the resources that we will be using is from there. And because Alan is already in the rhythm of this, we as a church, we are requesting him to facilitate the group discussions each Sunday. So he will help us with the questions for the group discussions. He'll help us in having meaningful conversations within the groups. And he will help us in bringing it all back together, tie it all together in prayer. So our desire is, would you be willing to introduce your friends and acquaintances to these new kind of Sunday experiences with regards to work? Yeah. just tell a couple of friends about, how, their work matters, or any of these, how ethics at work matter, be liking something happening at work, all of that. So next Sunday in particular, we're going to be addressing how the gospel has an impact on work through how we're going to be looking at it. We're going to be looking at it through the lens of the creation, through the lens of the fall, the redemption, the renewal, and restoration. So this is usually called as the 5-chapter gospel. What do I mean by 5-chapter gospel? The creation, the fall, the redemption, the renewal, and restoration. What is the creation? We just saw what is the creation today. What is the fall? The first instance of sin entering earth. That represents the fall. And redemption was Jesus's coming. Renewal is what we are undergoing every day today in our lives. We are undergoing renewal every day. And restoration is what we are looking forward to. So how work has an impact on all these 5 levels. How can work be seen through the lens of all these 5 instances of the 5-chapter gospel? This is what we're going to be diving deep from next Sunday. So how many of you, I don't know how many of you are excited, but I'm excited for this new form of group discussions and this changes in the order of service now. So your work actually matters.